The new system is part of Council's goal to reduce landfill input by 35% by the year 2000. Tari's Director of Technical Services, Wilton Boyd, says the system is easy to use and special bins will be provided free of charge.
The clients have the choice of a bin size of either 120 litre size or a 240 bin as their needs are. Plus they have a recycling crate of 50 litre capacity. And it's a weekly curbside service for both the bins and the recycling crates are put out on the same day.
Council's next step is the commissioning of a rubbish recovery centre at the Buckets Way tip and the introduction of dumping fees for non-recyclables and large loads.
On February 14 this year, residents informed Lake Macquarie Council of a yellow substance in North Creek at Warners Bay. Investigators found the source to be at Electro Zinc in Metcalfe Street, a chrome plating company. Tests carried out by council staff showed a high level of cyanide and other pollutants entering the stormwater system.
The level that's contained in the sample results leads us to believe that council has no alternative but to take this action.
Council will be asked tonight to authorise legal action against Electro Zinc. According to Environmental Services Director John Parks, despite repeated approaches, the company has failed to improve the situation.
The council have requested the Environment Protection Authority to become involved. They served a notice on the occupier of the premises requiring works to be undertaken. Satisfactory works to satisfy that notice have not been fully complied with.
Council will approach the Land and Environment Court to seek an injunction on the use of the premises until satisfactory pollution control measures are implemented. Investigations are still being carried out to determine whether the discharge of cyanide and other pollutants reached Lake Macquarie or if it has occurred before. Jodie McKay, NBN News. Residents in Estelle Street, Maryville, were awoken at around 3 o'clock this morning by the sound of crackling timber. The fire started in this house but quickly spread to the dwelling next door. Inside were Bob and Sandra Berwick, their 7-year-old granddaughter and 84-year-old mother who was blind.
They just got Mum out in time. As you see in the bedrooms, it was a mess, and she froze on the brother, and he's got a crook back, and he had a job getting her out, but another minute or so she could have been gone.
The 3 tenants of the house where the fire started were assisting fire investigators in their search for the cause. While burn patterns still have to be analysed, it's believed there was a fire in the house earlier in the evening when a pillow came in contact with a heater.
It could have started though from that pillow?
It may. Physical evidence, what we hope to uncover, should reveal if that is the fact.
The Berwicks were insured. They'd only recently renovated the house where they've lived for 42 years.
Move over, Sam Lagutsa and Rob Perella. The young brigade is moving in. The younger lawn bowlers are in Newcastle for the state junior pairs and singles titles at the Hamilton Club. The under 18-year-olds made the grade after winning their zone titles during the year.
It's pretty amazing really to get here. It's been a big effort and just to get here is thrilling.
Darren Ratton and Derek Morgan from Grafton both played number 1 pennants at home. They were up against Hemi and Rhett Palmer from the Illawarra region of Taralgi in the first semi-final. With the greens running at around 14 seconds, it was near perfect conditions for bowls. The other teams, Snudden and Hughes from Leeton and Mayer and Kinross from Woy Woy. The action continues tomorrow with the singles finals.
New South Wales bowler Wayne Holdsworth may well have kick-started a few cricket careers with his appearance at a coaching clinic. He was busy passing on batting and bowling tips to an eager audience.
They're sort of basically at the start of their career, so they can decide either way whether they want to become cricketers or whether they just want to play for the fun of it, or it's up to them. But hopefully after today they'll decide that they'll want to play cricket.
Sponsored by the New South Wales Cricket Association, the clinic aims to give country kids sporting opportunities already enjoyed in the city. As for his own career, with this year marred by injury, Holdsworth is looking forward to a new season.
I didn't finish the year as planned, as I said, with the injury, but next year's a new year, and hopefully things will start all over again, and I'll be ready to go.
In July last year, a truck and 4 cars collided on the Pacific Highway at Hexham. The car wedged underneath the truck burst into flames, trapping the driver. John Rudland of Rathmines was on his way to work at Tomago. He remembers the incident vividly.
Flames were coming out the back. We got the door open. The bloke was disorientated. He was crawling from side to side, trying to get out. He couldn't get out. And we just helped him out of the car. A few more minutes and it would have been all over. We wouldn't have been able to get him out. The fire was getting hold pretty quick.
John has been rewarded with a Bravery Award for his actions that day. Also recognised Mark Akers, the driver of the truck involved in the accident. Both say anyone would have done what they did, but nevertheless they're pleased to receive the awards.
I didn't think about it. It's just that's something you do.
If accepting an award is something that will get other people to help in cases like this, it's a good thing.
Also honoured, Constable Darren Roy. He's received a medal for preventing a suicide from a cliff at Terrigal on the Central Coast. He was able to pull a woman to safety before she fell almost 60 metres into the sea. Others to be rewarded are Dean McDermott of Glenning Valley and Blair Chambers of Wyong. They tried in vain to rescue the pilot of a burning helicopter at Tuggerah last year. The awards will be presented by the Governor-General in September. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
They're known as one of the world's best high school marching concert bands. Hailing from Mount McGill High in San Diego, the marching Matadors slayed onlookers in the streets during a special parade in Newcastle, their colourful costumes reflecting the heritage of southwestern America.
We do parades, we do field show competitions in the States, and my emphasis really is more on the concert though, but we do parades all over the United States.
Marching along with the 85 visitors, current Australian champions and host to the group, the Broadmeadow Band. It's been a hectic schedule with performances at Sydney's International Music Festival and major sporting games, but the reception has made the band's first Australian visit worthwhile.
This is fantastic. Like I say, we've been all over. We've been all over the United States and Europe, and nothing compares to Australia. Nothing. This has been great since when the plane landed last week in Sydney up through today. The hospitality, generosity is super.
These workers have a lot in common. They're all over the age of 21, they've all been out of work for more than a year and together make up the first group taking part in a special job skills program on building sites. In 6 months, West Wallsend High School near Newcastle will have a new horticultural and administration building.
It's not only giving these workers training, it's also given the community a number of projects which they wouldn't have got. They're going to do work for the Bushfire Brigade, the Rescue Helicopter, Parents and Citizens, all community-based projects.
A special award has been drawn up, supported by building unions who've historically opposed such ideas, fearing cuts in jobs for construction workers.
I was a bit concerned that these type of jobs might displace workers that would otherwise be working for a contractor. But we've made sure that all of the jobs that these workers will be doing wouldn't have been done otherwise.
The scheme is being funded by DEET and run by the Hunter Training Group.
They're probably the sort of people that a lot would accuse of being dull bludgers, but the attendance rate has been excellent, and the fellas themselves are very highly motivated and forever asking and looking for more work to do.
Alan Wilson's been unemployed for 12 years, but is confident that may change.
Well, I hope there's an employee out there that might take a chance and give me a job.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
We're just in this huge information network all the time. You walk down the street and you're just bombarded with images all the time. So that's why my images are so bright and full on, is because, I've got to compete with all this really intense imagery that we get all the time.
25-year-old Justin Henderson is one of 5 young artists displaying their works. His colourful creations join those of 3 other print artists, all with a message to share.
We wanted to get us 3 together so that we could have a show that's got, got a bit of grunt to it, for want of a better word. Just too much conceptual art for art's sake, as far as we're concerned. So we just wanted to get a bit of art together. It just really says something. Bright colours, intense imagery. That's what we're on about.
The paintings of Julie Easton and Jenny Rees, both third-year visual arts students, are also on show. The onlooker overawed by their size and scale.
I'm inspired by the industrial surroundings of Newcastle, and just by way of metallic paint, I've used silver and gold enamels in my work. Julie is interested in the way in which the woman is presented in the mass media, and how through repetition, the glossy image and the superficiality of all of it.
The exhibition is open until July 25th.
It's been designed to help golfers drive the ball straighter and longer. The secret is a special graphite shaft that controls where the club flexes on impact.
Conventional club at the point of impact slows down 18 to 22%. These clubs slow down 8 to 10%, so for the same effort, you've got to get a 10% better result.
Former Australian cricket captain Greg Chappell is one of the main backers of the fundamental 21 AD clubs. They were first released 18 months ago after 20 years of development by Armidale golf designer Jerry Hogan. The head and shaft are imported from Korea and Taiwan and assembled at the Armidale factory. And this little Aussie success story is already driving into lucrative overseas markets.
We've signed up distribution for Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong. We've got distribution in New Zealand, we've got distribution in Hawaii, other parts of the United States, and we've got a great deal of interest at the moment in the shaft in Japan.
But in the end, it'll be golfers who'll make or break the venture. And after today's launch in Newcastle, it appears set to become a world champion.
I find them pretty good. Yeah, they're not bad.
They seem a lot more, they're not as difficult to hit. I think they're a bit easier to hit the ball with.
Well, I found the driver magnificent, but my golfing ability is not as good as the equipment that was on display.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The first case of footy fever was diagnosed at this petrol station on Newcastle Road at Lambton. Drivers looking to fill up were given a G-up to support the Knights this weekend. Part-time Formula One driver and full-time Knights fan Nigel Mansell got behind the home team. He's depending on a Knights win. The sickness was spreading. Over at Swansea, one business was banking on a Newcastle victory. Staff wore the Guernseys of their heroes, the bank decked out in everything red and blue, from flags to money boxes. Staff say a Knights win is as safe as money in the bank. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Joel Elliott from Curry in the Hunter Valley lived for riding bikes. From the age of 3, he was starring on 2 wheels. By his teenage years, he was performing tricks like this.
Joel was as good as he get. He's the best that Australia had in 125s.
At 18, he was the Australian motocross and supercross 125 champion. He had gone to California chasing a contract with Yamaha, competing on the tough US circuit. But after feeling ill and spending time in hospital, his first ride back was to be his last. It's believed he suffered a cerebral hemorrhage.
Now, we're not sure exactly whether the grief was caused by the blood clot knocking him out, or whether, and then crashing, or whether he had a crash and part and parcel of that was the blood clot and a collapsed lung, and the rest is history.
Joel's death was a tragic shock for his family and many friends. His body will be transported back to Australia on Thursday with a funeral to follow. $26,000 fans saw a memorable game of football, the brilliance of Matthew Johns linking up with the Chief Paul Harrigan, and the Knights were on fire. The Broncos' big guns kept low key. Steve Renouf wrapped up by Russell Wire.
There was no one in the Winfield Cup yesterday under as much pressure as Russell was, and he came up trumps yesterday.
In attack too, Wire was almost unstoppable, but he was just one of many stars. Robbie O'Davis was taking all the pressure down the back, then setting up tries almost at will. Mark Sargent surged through the rucks, snubbing his nose at selectors, outshining the fancied Brisbane props. There were 17 heroes wearing red and blue, the side ticking over like clockwork. Knights coach David Waite says the 92 semi-final was a better game, but this history-making win over Brisbane was special.
I'm pleased to say at the right time of the season we're doing some things very, very well.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Field Day is designed to teach students more about farming techniques and make them more aware of safety practices. The event follows last year's successful Mid-North Coast Farm Safe Awards, which reflect a growing interest in agriculture at schools. The Field Days help make the students better farmers for the future.
The aim of today is to provide students with appropriate information to make accurate and informed decisions about agricultural safety issues which will affect them in their future farming.
Students learn about the basics of animal handling and are also taught how to use firearms, chemicals and farm machinery as part of an ongoing program to promote farm safety.
Agriculture has the second or third highest injury rate of any occupation, and the education of our future generation of farmers is vital to decreasing that horrible statistic.
Emma Sioncian, NBN News.
The Greyhawks are looking for some prey. The American Navy team based near Tokyo in Japan is in Newcastle to play the All-Stars New South Wales side to raise money for the Bishop's winter appeal. They've got some heavyweights of the game. Nemo is more than 2 metres tall, weighing about 120 kilos. On the weekend, the boys had a look at the Manly East game, that tough sport where the players don't wear helmets.
People in those sports do the same things that we do, but without the padding. So, that's got to give them a certain tenacity that, it's going to be something to reckon with, I think.
Looking on at training, some of the Aussies will play the Greyhawks in Newcastle on Friday night. While it may seem a daunting task, all the visitors are aged between 30 and 43 years old.
The two occupants of the sedan never had a chance. Just after 2:30 this afternoon, they crossed the Bohena Creek Bridge 15 kilometres south of Narrabri. Police say the car veered to the wrong side of the road and the semi-trailer ran over the top of it. The remains of the car were strewn over the Newell Highway, its occupants killed on impact. The force of the crash set the semi-trailer alight and the flames spread quickly. The driver was comforted by police as he watched his rig burn. Fire crews arrived shortly after, but were forced back by the thick smoke and fears the truck may explode. Protected by breathing apparatus, they returned to douse the blaze. The Newell Highway has been blocked as police try to piece together the crucial events just prior to the collision. The deceased have not been identified. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. "35-year-old Davies appeared on 5 charges, including escaping from lawful custody, aiding an escapee, 2 counts of assault on prison officers and goods in custody. The charges arise from Davies' escape from St Heliers at Muswellbrook last month and his alleged involvement in a daring break from Cessnock Correctional Centre yesterday. It's alleged Davies cut a hole through 2 fences to provide an escape route for Beeforth. The escape sparked a search of the Cessnock area with a police helicopter and sniffer dogs brought in. Davies was captured, but Beeforth is still on the run. He's described as 183 centimetres tall with brown greying hair. Beeforth was serving 4 years for fraud and he's not regarded as dangerous. His accomplice Davies made a special request to the court. Davies appealed to the magistrate to recommend he be held at Cessnock Correctional Centre as he feared for his safety in Maitland Jail, as he'll soon be a witness against some of his fellow prisoners. The request was refused. The case has been adjourned until August 15. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The schoolyard is a far cry from the biggest marching band competition in the world, but it's an easy transition for these 3 marching koalas. Heidi Eisel, Lewis Conn and Andrew Milgate returned to Merewether High today, still buoyed by their experiences in Canada.
The atmosphere was terrific. We worked really well as a group and it was a very enjoyable experience.
The trip was excellent. It was great, yeah. The band moved like one big happy family. It's terrific.
But spare a thought for Year 10 student Andrew, who had to battle jet lag to sit a half-yearly science exam.
Well, it's a shock, but I had to do it because I missed my trials when I went over, so I had to do it today.
But all 3 say they wouldn't swap anything for the experience of travelling and competing against the best marching bands in the world. They were part of the 100 marching koalas who combined to produce a gold medal winning performance to take out the junior section of the Calgary Stampede Parade.
The Calgary Stampede Parade was terrific because we all lasted the whole 7 kilometres, I think it was. And it was like, we were really surprised that we all could play the whole way.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Newcastle Council wanted to increase the amount it charges in general rates. The increase would have been 1.49%, an average of $7.80 per household.
I felt that $7.80 was not a lot over a 12-month period.
However, the Department of Local Government refused the application because it was felt that Newcastle Council was in a sound financial position. It also refused to allow Council to increase the city centre benefit rate. That rate is paid by shop owners and businesses to revitalise the city centre. Committee Chairman Peter Evans says most people had agreed to the proposed increase.
Property owners have recognised that the only way to turn Newcastle around and to assist with its revitalisation is to put something back, and they've agreed that their rates should be increased to enable the revitalisation of the city centre.
Late today, the Minister's office agreed to review its decision. The outcome won't be known until late next week. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Barry Arthur went missing after a party at Adamstown Heights last July. He'd been drinking alcohol and smoking cannabis. His body was found a week later in the ventilation tunnel of a disused mine near Dudley. The Arthur family had thought a possible cause for Barry's death was that he was overcome by gases seeping from the mine shaft where he was found. However, coroner Col Elliott found that wasn't the case. Mr. Elliott said that while it was fair and logical that Mr. Arthur could have died from swallowing his own vomit, analysis was difficult because of the decomposition of the body. In delivering an open finding, Mr. Elliott said he was not satisfied to a high degree as to the cause of death. For Mr. Arthur's family, it was disappointing. They still don't know what happened to their son.
I would have really liked, I think the whole family and everybody would have liked to have really known what happened.
Also included in the coroner's statement, criticism of those who attended the party with Mr. Arthur at Arana Crescent, Adamstown Heights. Mr. Elliott said there were people at the party who knew he was very intoxicated, had ingested cannabis and had vomited. They didn't go to his aid, but left him to his own devices. "27-year-old Louise Popham of Dudley was leaving work after completing a night shift at Bullaroo's Pasminco smelter. She died after her car was hit by a station wagon being driven by a 25-year-old Bullaroo man. His 2 children suffered minor injuries. After extensive questioning, the man was charged with numerous offences this afternoon, including manslaughter, culpable driving causing death and driving in a manner dangerous. He'll appear in court next month. And a 21-year-old man from Stockton has been charged with culpable driving after this accident at around 2:30 yesterday afternoon. He was the driver of a coal truck which tipped over after rounding a corner onto busy Maitland Road at Sandgate. 46-year-old Terry Arthur Hines of Weston was killed instantly when the truck fell on him. He'd stopped to help push a broken-down car off the road. And investigations are still underway into this collision between a packed school bus and a gravel truck on the narrow Bunya Road near Gloucester late yesterday. 2 children were injured in the collision, one flown to the John Hunter Hospital with a broken leg. 19 other children sustained cuts and bruises.
11 to 8 and favourite, 11 to 1 and 40 to 1. Next we went to Grafton for race 6, the running of the 1994 Tooheys South Grafton Cup. $8.40 and $2.50, $2.90 and $2.30, the Quinella $59.40 and the Trifecta $746.80.
It was business as usual at Tyrrell's Winery today. The family company has been making wines for Australian tables for 130 years, and it's building a reputation in international winemaking circles. Tyrrell's 1992 VAT 9 Shiraz has been dubbed the best in the world, taking first place at this year's International Wine and Spirit Competition in London. While staff at Tyrrell's were celebrating their win, Australian Rugby Union winger David Campese was down the road at the Pepper Tree Winery, checking a wine that will be used to celebrate his Jubilee match next year. David will choose a World 15 team to play the Wallabies, the game dubbed to be one of the world's greatest rugby matches. His limited edition wine will make its debut at the official dinner.
Many of those farmers attending the Sydney conference have experienced the seriousness of drought in northern New South Wales. With 45% of the state officially drought declared, farmers are pleading for help. The conference has called on the federal government to implement 3 initiatives, including extending part of the Rural Assistance Scheme to cover drought and abolishing the assets test on the Household Support Scheme. They also believe employees whose jobs are at risk because of the dry conditions should be given wage support equal to the unemployment benefit. It's estimated that since 1991, the drought has caused around $1.5 billion in lost production. Uralla farmer Alan Strudwick is just one of many who need government help.
We badly need urgent financial assistance to help us to get out of this difficulty, which is drought-induced and has been compounded by the fact that the federal government has not been our best ally.
Also condemning the federal government's lack of support is National Farmers Federation President Don McGeechy.
I can only say to the Prime Minister that it certainly wouldn't do him any harm to show a little more understanding of the devastation that this drought is bringing to people in those areas.
But there is some good news for beef producers. Despite the drought, our beef exports are fetching more than previously.
We've still got very, very good quality beef coming through into the marketplace, and lambs. I must say that it hasn't impacted on the customer, which is good.